This video and every video on this channel is made possible by your support on patreon.com/616entertainment. I couldn't do this without you, and your contributions keep this channel alive. You can also grab an official shirt over on prowrestlingtees.com/616entertainment. Universal truths are concepts that apply to every single living person on the planet, regardless of your beliefs, background, circumstances, etc. For example, we're all gonna die someday, so making the most of the time we have is of utmost importance. Another one, not everything is black and white. There are shades of gray to many situations. You get it? Good. Now let's talk about the universal truth that stands taller than any other. Dinosaurs are fucking awesome. Always have been, always will be. T-Rex? Awesome. Stegosaurus? Awesome. Velociraptor? Awesome. Brachiosaurus, pterodactyl, plesiosaurus? Awesome, awesome, awesome. When you're a little kid, what do you want to play with? Dinosaur toys. When you get older, what movie do you want to watch? Dinosaur movies. When it's all over, you're dead and buried, you decay, and your bones are in the ground. Now you're a fossil, just like the dinosaurs, which is way cooler than it has any right to be. Today we're going to talk about Turok, the video game franchise that puts the player in the shoes of a badass dinosaur hunter. Turok's roots are in the comic book world. Many gamers harken back to the Nintendo 64 when this name is spoken, but our focus here today is the 2008 reboot on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. How is it possible that such a great premise, such a proven franchise, was resurrected only to fade away into extinction yet again? What's up, Dan-Dans? My name is Ian. Thank you for joining me for another in-depth retrospective here on youtube.com/616entertainment. Maybe you've never played Turok before. Maybe you're a big fan. Maybe it was a little before your time, or maybe you just haven't gotten around to it yet. Look, none of these things affect the universal truth that dinosaurs are awesome. And by extension, Turok is awesome. The deep arsenal, the cerebral bore, the fear that there could be bloodthirsty carnivores stalking us from the tall grass, from the skies above, or even from the waves beneath our feet, it's the best. And it is an absolute tragedy that we are not still getting installments in this franchise today. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is the life and death of Turok. This badass bow and arrow wielding madman didn't spring into existence in the digital realm. Even if many of us hear the name and our minds flash back to the Nintendo 64 with those blocky, one-of-a-kind graphics that you had to experience back then to truly appreciate, that doesn't mean those are the roots of this tree. Forget the 90s for now and cast yourself back way before your time. Turok's first appearance, his official debut, was in comic book form in 1954. We're nearing 70 years of history here, believe it or not. 4-Color Comics, issue 596, there he is. Turok, Son of Stone. 2 years later, our guy would go from a featured character to a full-on star. Between 1956 and 1980, Turok, Son of Stone, now its own book entirely, would run for nearly 25 years, compiling more than 100 issues. After a lengthy hiatus, Valiant Comics would reboot the series. This new take on the franchise, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, was approaching its 50th issue when there was a big change made on the business side of things. In early 1994, Valiant Comics' parent company, Voyager Communications Incorporated, would be purchased by Acclaim Entertainment. You know Acclaim, don't you? Maybe you've played WWF Warzone or South Park. Maybe ShowDown, Legends of Wrestling, or All-Star Baseball. There you go. See? You do know Acclaim. Under this new ownership, Turok comic books would continue to be published, but this is where that digital world we mentioned a few minutes ago began to take shape. The year is 1997. The Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 are all the rage on the school playground. If you were a kid of the 90s like I was, you remember this era well. I don't think I was able to get through a single class without hearing whispers of Mario Kart 64. During recess, I distinctly remember overhearing conversations surrounding Crash Bandicoot and Twisted Metal 2. These are the times I often daydream about, man. I feel like that's another universal truth. The older you get, the more you find yourself hearkening back to your childhood. And speaking of universal truths, holy shit, were dinosaurs awesome in the 90s. Dude, Jurassic Park, We're Back, Primal Rage, the Land Before Time sequels, the show Dinosaurs. They were everywhere, and we loved every second of it. Side note, the Dinosaurs TV show taught me how to lift only one of my eyebrows long before The Rock was calling it the people's eyebrow. I saw Richfield look up from his desk raising only one eyebrow and thought, wow, that's hilarious, and I taught myself how to do it. You can learn a lot from television as a kid, even from places you might not expect. On March 4th, 1997, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, an exclusive title for the Nintendo 64, hit store shelves. This is where most of us were introduced to the legendary character, and oh my goodness was this a hell of an introduction. Who wouldn't want to take control of a time-traveling badass whose mission is to save the entire universe from an overlord called the Campaigner? Forget the Campaigner though, because along the way, we're getting our hands on a deep arsenal of deadly weapons. We're battling everything from opposing human warriors to intergalactic aliens from who knows where. And don't forget the dinosaurs. Raptors, Dimetrodons, mechanized T-Rexes with laser vision who can breathe fire. Are you kidding me? There's a reason Turok became the talk of the playground. It's because it was ridiculously cool. March 4th was deemed Turok Tuesday. You don't think we were eating that shit up? Come on. I didn't have a Nintendo 64 as a kid. I grew up with a PlayStation, so I didn't get to experience the original Turok at home. My memories of this game are from watching over my friend Bobby's shoulder when I'd go over to his house. It's funny, we had another friend named Turok. For whatever reason, Bobby's mom could never pronounce Turok's name correctly. I can still hear it like it was yesterday. Bobby's mom shouting up the stairs, "Guys, Turok is here!" It's fucking amazing. Turok Dinosaur Hunter was highly praised by critics and was no commercial slouch either, selling over 1.5 million units. In December of 1998, N64 owners were treated to Turok 2: Seeds of Evil. This sequel was largely considered bigger, badder, and better than the original. And that's all well and good, but we've got to talk specifically about the cerebral bore, a weapon that launches a homing device onto the head of an enemy. Once attached, the device drills through the skull and into the brain before exploding the head entirely. If that sounds like the coolest weapon you've ever heard of, it's because it is. In 2012, IGN ranked the cerebral bore at number 3 on their list of top 100 video game weapons of all time. Horror fans might be thinking, hey, that's just like the Sentinel orb from Phantasm. And you're right. That's exactly where the idea for the cerebral bore came from. Look at you. As with any popular franchise, the sequels kept on coming. 1999 saw the release of Turok Rage Wars. This one focused heavily on multiplayer. I mean, GoldenEye was all the rage. Hello? It's worth noting that Rage Wars is totally non-canonical as well. The only point to even playing the single-player mode is to unlock things for multiplayer. But forget about that, because in 2000, gamers were once again served up a juicy, ridiculous story of a lone man fighting off the cosmic forces of calamity in Turok 3: Shadow of Oblivion. This was the final entry for Turok on its home console. Times were changing, and once Turok 3 finally released for the Nintendo 64, the Sony PlayStation 2 was mere weeks away from launch. And with the next generation of consoles would come the next generation of Turok. With the Nintendo 64 in the rearview mirror, it was time to look forward. And backward. That'll make sense in a second. We're moving forward onto the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the GameCube. Look, if you had any of the modern consoles, you were now able to play Turok. And with improved graphics, much gnarlier violence, and deeper gameplay, how could you go wrong? The moving backwards part comes in when we address the story. There's a reason this isn't called Turok 4 after all. Turok Evolution is a prequel, taking place way before anything we'd seen prior. This was actually the first Turok game I ever owned, and while I never finished this one, I remember having a blast with it. I'll always pop for dinosaurs and gore, man. That's an easy win. You might imagine that this new generation of consoles breathed fresh life into Turok's prehistoric lungs, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. After releasing 5 games inside of 5 years, Turok was facing extinction. Jesus, man. I said at the top, the focus today is not the Turok franchise as a whole, but rather the 2008 reboot. I just wanted to set the stage a little bit before we dove in, but maybe I overdid it. I don't know. Whatever. But now's the time, Dan. Strap in, because the fossilized remains of Turok were about to be brought back to life like we're on some Jurassic Park shit. Turok didn't become a video game franchise until there was a major change on the business side of things, remember? Acclaim Entertainment bought Valiant Comics? Well, Acclaim were not going to be the studio in charge of our beloved dinosaur hunting franchise beyond 2002's 5th and final entry. Why is that? Well, sadly, they went out of business. Acclaim released ShowDown Legends of Wrestling in mid-2004, and 3 months later, they went bankrupt. After this video, check out my retrospective of ShowDown, link in description. The following year, the Turok license would be picked up by Propaganda Games, a hot new studio co-founded by EA Canada veterans Josh Holmes and Daryl Anselmo. If you're thinking, wait, I know these guys. Yeah, you probably do, as they were key players in bringing both Def Jam Vendetta and its sequel, Def Jam Fight for New York, to life. Josh Holmes would go on to serve as creative director for Halo 4. This was a proven team, man, so there was plenty of reason to be excited. There's also plenty of reason to check out my retrospectives on both Def Jam Vendetta and Fight for New York. Links in description. This was no lightning fast turnaround either. Brand new studio, brand new license under their belt, and seeing as though 6 years had passed since Turok had last been around, a brand new generation of consoles. The new entry, simply titled Turok, was worked on for over 3 years and would find its way onto the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC in February of 2008. This Turok isn't a sequel, it isn't a prequel, it's not a multiplayer non-canon spin-off. We're now in full reboot territory. The story puts us in the shoes of Joseph Turok, a corporal for the military outfit known as Whiskey Company. Our task is to infiltrate a little-known, long-assumed abandoned planet to capture a war criminal by the name of Roland Kane. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, it's juicier than that. Kane may be a war criminal, but he's also Turok's former mentor, making this mission a very personal one for the star of the show. Oh, and this planet isn't abandoned. In actuality, the entire place is operating under the thumb of a rival military corporation, who just so happen to be hell-bent on terraforming this world for their twisted scientific studies. Priority number 1, weaponizing the planet's pre-existing inhabitants. Dinosaurs. Hell yeah, now we're cooking. One of our Whiskey Company cohorts, Slade, is not happy to be working with us. Slade doesn't trust Turok because he knows Turok trained under Roland Kane's Wolfpack team, and Wolfpack killed Slade's brother. The story's fun because it's not just, hey, we're on a dinosaur planet, be careful. There's personal strife threaded through many of our major players, stitching them together, whether they like it or not. Speaking of the major players, this cast is nothing to sneeze at. Our doubtful teammate Slade is voiced by the legendary Ron Perlman. Heavy weapons expert Jericho is played by Christopher Judge, who you may know as Kratos or D-Mob. Shepard is played by Donnie Wahlberg. Cowboy is Timothy Oliphant. I'm telling you, this is a big boy lineup. So Whiskey Company are sent out to this derelict planet to find and capture Roland Kane, and hijinks ensue. Hijinks involving explosions, heavy artillery, dinosaurs, betrayal, violence. That all sounds good to me. But now let's talk about how this thing actually plays. Are we blasting dinos in the face with shotguns? You're damn right we are. Is sniping enemy soldiers from 100 yards away an extremely satisfying thing to pull off? You're damn right it is. Look, I'm not here today to teach you how to play. You understand that R2 fires your weapon, alright? Let's get into the main events. There is nothing quite like the old faithful, guys. Your best friend here in Turok 2008 isn't Ron Perlman. It's not the environment itself. It's the goddamn knife and bow. When there's a raptor sprinting in your direction, your instinct might be to pull out a minigun and blast away like Frank Reynolds, but that's not the move. I'm telling you, it's the knife. As long as you're lined up correctly, one simple button press is all it takes to trigger a brutal knife kill. These raptors are getting stabbed in the top of the head like that security guard from Halloween 2. It's horrific. If you're truly insane, you can lift up tiny little compies and slice their jugular. But who would do that? You piece of garbage, leave them alone. Did they eat the little kid in the beginning of Jurassic Park 2? Sure they did, but that wasn't our kid. Anyway, the knife is sick, and the bow is even better. There's no better feeling in the entire game than pulling back, lining up a shot, and harpooning an unsuspecting enemy soldier. It's quick and it's quiet, which allows us to scoot over to our next spot, rack up another one, and stick them to the wall. Seriously, you can pin dudes to the wall. It's awesome. This is where I would love to tell you how cool the cerebral bore is here on the next generation of consoles, but the cerebral bore is not in the game. What a major blunder. Before we go any further, I have to get into the nuts and bolts on this game's performance. It may seem fun to get into these firefights and these squabbles with the prehistoric kind, and it is, but this game is janky as hell. It runs quite poorly, and rather than just convey it to you verbally, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. First of all, it is impossible to look in any direction without the screen looking like it's gonna tear in half. I recognize that this can happen to the best of them on occasion, but I'm serious. The screen tearing here is constant, and it persists through the entire experience. Gonna jump in with a little note ski here. While I'm editing, I'm noticing that the recording doesn't look as bad as the game does in action on your television. So in this slowed down clip, you can really get a feel for what I'm talking about. The audio levels are all over the place, and most of the voice acting sounds like a bad download off Kazaa from 2003.
Damn, why couldn't I get stuck with a son of a bitch with wheels? Whiskey company, come in. Damn it.
There's the smoke from the main crash site.
My feet hurt. This walking sucks. Damn it, not these little things again.
Textures can take upwards of 10 seconds to pop in, even after the start of a cutscene. And this next one isn't a performance issue as much as it is a design issue, but holy shit. There are times where dropping an entire fleet of enemy soldiers is a piece of cake. You'll be feeling like Arnold in Commando. Other times, the enemy soldier AI is multiplied like they're from an entirely different game, on an entirely different difficulty. They flank you in the blink of an eye, and if they get you in their crosshairs, it's over. Honestly, the difficulty spikes make absolutely no sense. There were several times during my playthrough where I captured all this footage from that I had to turn the game off and walk away because I simply couldn't get past the fight in front of me. It was that bad. We're not talking about challenge. We're talking about unfair spikes that take things from fun to fuck this inside of 60 seconds. That was a fair handful of complaints and criticisms, but that's not the end of the story. We've got more highs and more head scratchers to touch on before it's all said and done. I want to take a second to talk about some really cool details. One of my favorite little touches is that not every raptor looks exactly the same. And we're not talking about some are green, some are orange. Portions of the story mode take place in caverns deep underground. We're talking about the type of dungeon that the sun has never shined on before. In here, the raptors have zero pigment to their skin, as if they've never had to adapt to the harsh UV rays of the outside world. This made the planet feel inhabited to me, rather than just slapped together haphazardly. Have you ever seen some of the real-life creatures from down in our ocean's abyss? I'm talking real-life animals. Many of them feature this ghostly, apparitional look. That's some awesome design right there. I find it highly amusing how many references to Predator are packed into this game. Try and tell me Turok's Jericho is not a copy and paste of Mac from Predator. We've got our Jesse the Body Ventura stand-in too. And just look at the handshakes.
You son of a bitch.
If you're gonna pay homage to something, you should pay homage to something as dope as Predator. Major bonus points. Plus, Kane and Turok's old team was called Wolfpack. Are we gonna pretend that's not badass?
Your wolf pack, that's never going to change.
And how about the first time we encountered the T-Rex? How about these gigantic scorpions that burst up through the floor? Let's take a minute to appreciate the boss battle against this gigantic gulper eel deep underground. Don't get it twisted. Even through its faults and overall lackluster performance, there's some really cool shit going on here. The storyline comes to a close with a one-on-one knife fight between Turok and Kane. In the end, Kane is killed, and that's all she wrote. Wrong! Nobody's going anywhere with that T-Rex running around. After a battle that includes a ton of oh shit, run away from the T-Rex, Turok jams a grenade into the previously ruptured eye socket of the colossal beast, and boom. Good lord. Turok's only surviving teammates, Shepard and Slade, swing in on the last remaining ship, and our boys head home. It's kind of funny how, as I've gotten older, I've grown more sensitive to certain things. Make no mistake, dinosaurs are still awesome. They're still the best, but now more than ever, I don't want to kill them. I never really wanted to kill them, but even being in a video game where my goal is to see a cool dinosaur and then blow its head off, I don't like it. I recognize that a grenade exploding a T-Rex's head is objectively badass, but I don't want to blow up the T-Rex's head. I want to be like, yo, that's a sick-ass T-Rex. I want to watch the T-Rex do its thing. I want to watch it cause its violence and eat its dinners and take out other soldiers, you know? But I don't want to hurt the raptors. I don't want to hurt the T-Rexes. It's like playing The Last of Us Part 2, a game that I love, but the part where the enemy soldiers come in with the German Shepherds, I'm like, man, why are you making me hurt dogs? I know it's a game. I know it's a work. I don't want to hurt animals, even dinosaurs. I don't want to do it. Especially with dinosaurs, because they've already gone extinct once. Now this T-Rex is coming after me and I have to blow its head off, and now I'm thinking, oh man, that might be the last T-Rex that's left. They had a second chance and I ruined it. I also hate that the human enemies don't bleed. I'm serious, they don't bleed at all. Blow them away with a gun, no blood. Shoot them with an arrow, no blood. Plunge a knife into their sternum and tear it across their entire ribcage to see sparks. What the hell is this? This game is rated M for mature. This is senseless, and I won't stand for it, especially since this decision is probably what led to us not having a cerebral bore. God damn it. I remember buying Turok right around the time it was released in 2008. At the time, I was enamored with it. Dinosaurs, explosions, the amazing knife kills. These things allowed me to look beyond the game's overall jank. Nobody else I knew picked this one up though, so I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it. In 2012 or so, a friend of mine by the name of Quinn wanted to start up a website. Obviously, I was all in. And one of the first reviews I wrote, for some reason, was on this game. I felt like I had to write it. Nobody else I knew played it. I wanted to spread the word. That was over 10 years ago, though, and unfortunately, that website and my Turok review are long, long gone. Lost to time. Over the years, I've stayed strong that the Turok reboot deserves more credit than it gets. In coming back to it, though, I don't know that it does. I think what I really wanted was for more people to play the game, or maybe for it to get a sequel. A sequel that would no doubt improve upon the existing foundation. But, as you may have suspected, that never happened. Turok earned okay to fair review scores at launch, and luckily, it sold even better, moving over 1 million units in its first 2 months on shelves. Propaganda Games moved on to other projects, expanding their portfolio. The studio would go on to release Tron Evolution in 2010, and business was set to pick up from there. Announced at E3 2009, Pirates of the Caribbean Armada of the Damned was hyped to the moon and back, and was cancelled in 2011. Shortly thereafter, Propaganda Games was shut down completely. We've since gained confirmation that Turok 2 was in fact in development behind closed doors. Not only that, but concept art and even a CG trailer have been unearthed from the ashes of Propaganda's archives. A fossilized piece of history from an era lost to the ages. There are a number of universal truths out there, Dans. We're all gonna die someday, so making the most of every moment we have is of utmost importance. Dinosaurs are awesome, and as human beings, we regularly find ourselves wondering, what could have been? That would have been a pretty slick line to end on, but hey, there is more to this story. Have we been treated to a brand new Turok game in these last few years? No, we haven't. Is there a new Turok game in the works? Not that we know of. But these old bones aren't exactly collecting dust. The heroes over at Night Dive Studios have extracted our long-lost franchise's DNA from its digital amber and completely remastered both the original Turok and Turok 2 Seeds of Evil. The graphics are as clean as it gets. These remasters run smoother than you'd ever expect, and the fun factor is still very much alive and well. It's fantastic that anybody with an Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, or PC can pick these up right now and relive those childhood memories. It may not actually be 1997 anymore, but if you set the lighting just right, surround yourself with the perfect snacks, and boot up these remasters, you can make it feel pretty damn close to the real thing. Oh my goodness gracious, Dans, that's gonna do it. Thank you very much for joining me for the life and death of Turok. We are getting closer and closer to the history of God of War, which premieres 6/16/2022. But I think we've got one more in-depth retrospective stop to make before then. Join me May 25th for DC Universe Online 11 years later. I didn't feel right calling this the life and death of DC Universe Online because the game is alive and well, and I'm not interested in clickbaiting you guys with inaccurate titles. So expect the same type of in-depth retrospective content with a slightly adjusted title. I couldn't do any of this without you guys, so if you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider signing up over at patreon.com/616entertainment. Look, I'm going to spill the beans here a little bit, and this is not on my script that's over down to the left here. This is just me shooting from the hip. You guys love 616 Nitro, the weekly wrestling game show. How about 616 Thunder? How about a second weekly wrestling game show? That's one of the goals over on Patreon right now. Once we hit 150 supporters, I'll do 2 weekly wrestling game shows. For the sake of clarification, this would not be a Patreon exclusive show. The goal is to hit 150 patrons, and then this will be on YouTube for everybody, like all the other shows. Still nothing hidden behind a paywall. I'm never gonna do that. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't we already do that? Didn't we have 616 SmackDown and 616 Nitro? We did, but at the time, Monday Night Blitz, Mortal Kombat Monday, the Fight Night Championship Tournament, Let's Play Friday, that's 4 other shows. None of those were running at the time. So Nitro and SmackDown were the 2 weekly shows. This would be 4 weekly shows, so it's a ton of bang for your buck, make no mistake. And fuck it, I'll tell you about another one, Scream Sequence. Razor sharp reviews on your favorite creepy classics is what I want to start putting together once we hit 200 patrons. Look, you guys loved the history of Halloween. You have no idea how many comments I got saying, hey, please do more horror reviews. Talk about Chucky. Talk about Freddy. Talk about Jason. Talk about Leatherface. Talk about Ghostface. I want to do that. I just have to make sure the support is there. So if we can hit 200 patrons, Scream Sequence will become a show. And if we hit 200 patrons, there you go. A full season of Scream Sequence will get made. I will put it out. It's not like I'm going to do one and then disappear. And I'll spoil this too. I'm already working on the first episode of Scream Sequence. I'm going to show it to you guys before we hit the mark as a proof of concept, because I don't expect anybody to pay for anything without knowing what they're going to get, okay? Wow. I didn't plan on telling you guys all that, but I did. I love you very much. Thank you for all the support. Until next time, I'll see you soon.